Welcome to today's review, where we're going to look at comparing two entry-level Seiko divers. One is the iconic SKX007, which was introduced in 1996, and this was phased out about 22 years later in about 2018, 2019. So it had a good run of 22 years, and it was replaced by the Prospex Turtle, the SRP 777. I think that's the number. I have to check, but I'm reasonably sure that's the 777. And has a larger case. It has a different movement, and it's got the major difference is it has hacking, whereas the venerable 7S26 movement did not have hacking. Now, obviously, one of the things that you'd realize is this had no juice, and you cannot turn the winder to give this power. You have to do the Seiko shuffle, whereas the Prospex line, because it uses the 4R35 movement, you can wind it using the crown. So that's the one significant difference. Some people may talk about how the SRP uh, has hacking, but in my opinion, it just doesn't make a difference, the hacking element, because uh, you don't really. Automatic watches lose so much time every day that even though you may get the hand set to the seconds hands matched to the correct time, you will ultimately lose out. Let's stop this so we can get the seconds hand of both of these to match. Give this a Seiko shuffle to get a little bit of juice in it. It's just been sitting for a while, so I'm going to try to get the seconds to match, so at least when they move you'll see them rolling synchronized. It's gonna be at 14, and there you go. So like any diver, it has the crown at 4 o'clock. There's lots of similarity. In fact, you'd realize the second hand is exactly the same in both the watches. It's the exact same design. Same goes for the hour and minute hands. Again, the exact same design. Absolutely no difference. Let me move this a bit so that you can see the hour and second hand. So the second hand is exactly the same. The hour and the minute hands are also fairly similar. It's a little narrower on the SKX007 compared to uh, the the Prospex Turtle, the SRP 777, I think the number. So in some ways, I think because this is slightly smaller, the SKX007, the hands are better proportioned than on the Turtle, because here the hands are smaller but the dial is much larger. Now, the text is, as you can see on the Prospex, you just have Seiko on top, whereas this says Seiko Automatic, and at the bottom it says Divers 200 meter, Divers 200 meter, 21 jewels. This is actually 24 jewels, but it doesn't tell the jewel count, and it says automatics, and then it has the Prospex logo. For those of you who don't know, Prospex stands for Professional Specifications, and Seiko is working really hard to get that Prospex logo, uh, show up on all their watches. So it's a matter of personal taste whether you like the logo or not. The one thing that I do like about this is how iconic that orange text is for the diverse 200 meter, whereas the Turtle has it's just entirely white. It's kind of bland, but that's just again a matter of personal choice. The loom on the Prospex is domed, so you should be able to see the reflection of the light of the loom on the index markers, whereas in the SKX007 the loom is flat. The it also, because the SRP 777, which is the Turtle, is actually an homage to the 6309 Turtle from the 1970s. This has its hour markers as following the design of the Turtle from the 6309. So the 12 o'clock is split, and then there's the cross that runs through them, whereas the SKX007 has its own distinctive hour markers, which I think actually work really well, because those circular uh, index markers at 4 and 5 gel very well with the rounded corner uh, extended uh, rectangles. It's not really a rectangle, it's basically a rectangle with rounded corners. And the triangle at the 12 o'clock mark. It's just so much easier to read compared to uh, I mean, this isn't that hard to read. They just have a they have a different design language. I think the SKX has a very classic design language, because this harkens back to the design language of submariners in the 1950s. So you really have to look at the Rolex from 1958 or so to understand where this design language is coming from. And the design language of the Prospex Turtle is really a design language of the 70s. This is a very authentic 70s watch, the Prospex Turtle. So it's not a bad watch at all. Both of them have the same matte black, dark gray dial in a matte paint. I think to my eye, the SKX007 has a slightly darker paint compared to the tone of the gray. It's a much lighter gray on the Turtle. The bezel is exactly the same. There's just no distinction. You can see they're using the exact same font, the exact same uh, markers. There's just absolutely no difference. And in fact, when you look at it from the sides, you'd realize this coin bezel that they're using is really the same bezel. So they went into their kit of parts and they took the exact same bezel design from here to here. And in fact, you'd realize the crown is also the same design. This has a rounded uh, this is the top is rounded, and here it is also kind of rounded, so it has it's almost like a domed appearance. It is not a signed crown, so if you want a signed crown, you're looking at $1,000 watch, not a $350 $400 watch that this typically will go for. They both have brushed finish. The brushed finish is very nice on both of them. Now, please, the one point that I do want to make is these are both made in Japan models, and made in Japan models always have better finishing than the Malaysian made Chinese Seiko divers that you get in the US. So, if possible, get the Japanese model, because you'll be very pleased with a Japanese model when you realize how better the finish is. So you can actually clearly see, as the brushed finish, you can clearly see the individual lines, and then obviously it has the polished sides on both sides, which is actually great because it's kind of harder to damage it. If it were brushed, it'd be very easy to see the scratches. In fact, if you look at my watch, you may just be able to see some scratches out here where the lugs meet. So it's exactly the same. It has the same brushed finish. I don't think the camera can quite focus. Let's try to see. Yeah, okay, so there you go. You can see the brushed finish, the polished finish, that is, and then it is brushed on top. In terms of the back of the watch, again, the Prospex Turtle has a far higher level of finish on the case back compared to the SKX007, because the SKX007, you can clearly see how the stamping worked. It's just, a little lower quality. It's like they tried to cut corners. But on this, because, it's much more fine, uh, and it's just a factor of how modern, in the last 25 years, this technology has just improved so much that you can now use laser etching, which is what they're doing there, compared with just a standard stamping that's happening here. So obviously this is of a much lower quality than this. But beyond that, there's, let's have a look at the strap, because both of these are on the exact same strap. So they're both using the, so obviously this has been used, so there's a bit of scratching here. The buckle on this is obviously a lot more robust on the Turtle compared to the one on the SKX007. The SKX007 has actually never been worn, so it has absolutely no scratching. And if you flip it aside, yeah, you see where it says Seiko stainless steel. And let's flip it aside, and it should say just stainless steel Z. Now this definitely is a nice touch compared to the rubber based strap. The strap, I actually don't know what you call them, but the band. So there's definitely, this does feel a bit more premium, but in my opinion, both these straps are roughly of the same quality, the same. I definitely would say that this is the silicone based strap on the Turtle is a lot more flexible compared to the rubber strap on the SKX007, because this is a bit more rigid, and it's just a factor of technology. So in conclusion, if there are, there's really not many other distinctions. The SKX007, they don't make it anymore, so these are getting harder and harder to find, especially new. The Turtle, they're making plenty of these, but in order to cut costs, they have sent all of the manufacturing to China or Malaysia. So, get a Japanese one if you can. And that, is about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on another video. Please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching, and please let me know what your thoughts in the comments.